Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome, everybody, to Dynamite Download. We are live, and it is beach break, post-beach break, and I am SPD, and we are joined over there with Fish over there in his coconut bra and lay. Man, how is it going, man? What'd you think of that show?
These are one size fits most, brother, and I'm struggling to keep these bad boys on, my friend. But
I love it, man.
You did Justin Roberts proud with that, man. Nice job rolling those R's tonight.
Thank you, man. That was I was watching Dark earlier, and I was very inspired by that because I think it's an amazing entrance, and I was saying how Rey Fenix is slowly but surely starting to have one of the more cooler entrances. And I know we posted online today about how, entrances, with Judas and Jungle Boy and all that. And so I think Rey Fenix's pyro and his intro with Justin Roberts is definitely near the top. I mean,
no doubt, brother. I can't wait to talk to you more about that main event tonight. I'll be honest with you. My man Pac was in that main event, but there were multiple times during that main event where I was just like, I can see why Fenix is SPD's like one of his favorite wrestlers in the whole world, dude. Fenix stole the show in that main event. What a freaking showing by that guy.
Did he ever?
Honestly, brother, there were multiple matches tonight where I felt like, all right, like, this is going to be my top performer. This is going to be the showcase, the show stealing moment of the night. We had such a great show for Beach Break. You and I were both incredibly pumped. You threw the card up there. Last week, SPD, before we dive in, last week when we did a preview for this show, there were really only a couple matches announced. We talked about the main event. We talked about, obviously, our excitement for Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa and that tag team battle royal, but that was it. And then as the week progressed, more and more in typical AEW fashion, they released more and more for this show, and it ended up being an absolutely stacked card. We just came off the heels of WWE's Royal Rumble, and I felt like that was a great pay-per-view. I got to give WWE a lot of credit. That was a really great pay-per-view from top to bottom, but this felt like a pay-per-view from AEW tonight, did it not? Oh,
absolutely. I mean, it was just nonstop action from start to finish. They started off a fantastic way with the Battle Royal. The sheer amount of talent that was involved in this card, it's a tough one to beat. It could have been any pay-per-view for any AEW show for sure.
No doubt.
I was very impressed with the outcome of it, especially the way the finish. It's just jaw-dropping finish. And so we'll run through the card, and we'll start things off on episode 20 of Dynamite Download, the Beach Breaks. And so, I mean, you saw I talked about the Battle Royal, MJF and Chris Jericho took the win. And, it wasn't really unexpected, but we kind of predicted last week that the Young Bucks were going to possibly win, and they didn't. But they are now the number one contenders at Revolution.
I can't wait to jump into that one because I caught a lot of heat from you and the AEW community that I had picked. If I could fantasy book the winner of that, I would have picked MJF and Chris Jericho. If you rewind the clock to Friday Night Flights, that was my dream winner scenario for that. And so knowing that FTR got cut from that, I couldn't be happier. I mean, if FTR is not going to win, your boy Crayfish is ecstatic when the Inner Circle comes out on top. And beyond that, nothing made me happier than seeing Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa tonight. That was the feud that you and I, the Dynamite Download team, we pushed all our chips on the table for that feud. We really felt like this was really the match that defines the women's division for AEW.
That's a great point.
Boy, did it not disappoint. I'm so geeked to talk to you about Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. What a match that was.
Yeah, and I mean, that match would be extremely, extremely hard to follow. And we had a well-placed match with Hangman, Adam Page, and Matt Hardy versus Chaos Project, which was a quick little squash, but it had a little more story to it. But we'll dive into that as well.
Yeah, I mean, that one had a lot of heat around it, right? A lot of people on the IWC were chatting about it. I can't wait to get your take on it, SPD, because you're always Mr. Positive, Mr. Sunshine, Mr. Rainbows. Can't wait to hear you talk to me a little bit more about that one. But there's no doubt that Lance Archer versus Eddie Kingston, when it comes to a blood feud, when it comes to fire, that match was something that all of us had our eyes on, especially with the stipulation for the lumberjack scenario. Really, really delivered. I felt like these guys had that brawl that, now that it's tied up, Lance went over Eddie Kingston. I can't wait to see where this goes from here because I don't know about you, but I don't think it's over.
I hope it's not over, and I don't think it's over. But, I mean, we saw some things happen at the end of this episode with Lance Archer. So we shall see. And I know you were clamoring and the universe is clamoring for a possible cage match, which that would be a home run. Not that these matches aren't already a home run. And, I mean, the main events, this is just for in-ring action. Obviously, we had the Kip and Penelope Ford wedding, but the main event in-ring with Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers coming out on top against Jon Moxley, Pac, and Rey Fenix. And that was a fantastic bout. I mean, I'm speechless, with what happened after that. So, wow. Let's start things back over to the Battle Royal.
Let's get into it, man. Yeah, because, as the tag team kind of slappy of our team, I was really geeked about where this was going. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen a tag team Battle Royal before. There's lots of times we even on Dynamite Download here, we put together a tag team tournament. And, that's more of a traditional way of determining who your number one contender is. I thought this was a nice, fresh take, especially hot off the heels of what we talked about. I mean, hot off the heels of Royal Rumble weekend, kept a lot of fans interested. And obviously there were a lot of storylines that played out in this one, right, SPD? I mean, FTR got cut before they could even get into this one. Probably, I mean, to me, my favorites to win the whole thing and to be the number one contenders, they were eliminated before the match even started. This match had a lot of storylines weaving in and out, and I think that some of Dynamite Download favorites had a real showcase. I mean, we talked to John Silver just last night, and I felt like the Dark Order had a nice showing tonight. I know that SPD, you're a diehard Luchasaurus fanboy.
Yeah, he looked awesome.
Absolute star tonight. What was your take on this one coming out? Obviously, when you have this many men in the ring, there's going to be a lot of action. So I'm going to throw it over to you. Give us your take, SPD. This an elite or delete, and give us your rundown on what made this match so special.
This is it delivered with, like you said, so many different storylines. To start things off, I was kind of debating back in my head, like what's going to start the show. And this is a perfect way to start the show. And then I was also thinking, what entrances are they going to feature? And of course, what's been stuck in my head since last week, Jungle Boy entrance. So Jungle Boy's entrance, which I expected us to hear because, it's starting to become a huge fan favorite of, across the board. And then it gets followed up with Judas, which unfortunately it got cut very short. There was no sing along with Judas. The Acclaimed interrupted them. Which we'll see next week, Acclaimed versus Jericho and MJF. So there's kind of rhyme for a reason for all that, which is nice to kind of tie it all in together. But the match itself, they really, announcers did a great job saying how Inner Circle has 3 members, Dark Order has 2 members. That's half of the 10 teams right there. I loved how the Young Bucks came out full throttle and they were just, come out swinging and kicking and the whole time. It was so nice to see Silver have a great showing as well. Like we said, we just talked to him yesterday. If you haven't seen the interview, make sure to check it out on our YouTube page. And he eliminated Hager, and then he eliminated Luchasaurus, which to me was a very impressive. He was clearing the ring, the choke slams, all the flips and all that. And then you had, like you said, so many stories with this. MJF and Chris Jericho taunting the Young Bucks with the double bicep pose. The crowd was singing Tarzan Boy. It was, and then you have the turmoil with the Inner Circle, which we saw later on. So this definitely was an elite start to the night for sure for me. How could it not? I mean, with that much star power, that much, wow factor going on. I loved it. I thought it was a great start for me.
Yeah. I mean, I can't, the amount of episodes where we've started this show at Dynamite Download, and we've talked about how excited I am anytime the AEW starts a show with the tag division or with the Young Bucks in particular. But anytime that they do that, it always feels like the show is going to be off to a hot start. You know what I mean? Like the tag division of AEW is so special and so action-packed, so jam-packed. There were so many teams that were in this battle royal, but as a fan of the division, there were so many teams that didn't even make the cut, right?
That's true. A lot.
So I loved how they showcased how deep the division was. I thought that played really, really well tonight. I also felt like you mentioned, SPD, the storylines being interwoven throughout this. It shows AEW's attention to detail, their focus on really interweaving multiple stories, multiple characters with each other. Really like where they're going with that. Some of the standouts to me, obviously Johnny Hungy eliminating Hager and Luchasaurus, obviously
the 2 biggest men in the match.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was gonna point out, right? Is the Meat Man really delivered when you talk about how Luchasaurus in particular had quite an impressive showing in this one. For John Silver to come out and eliminate the 2 big men, I think that was a nice feather in the cap for the Dark Order. Big fan of that. Dark Order looked really great in this one. I thought Stu Grayson was kind of one of the undervalued or underappreciated members of this battle royal. He was all over the place. Obviously, to me, I'm going to focus in on the winners. You and I both love highlighting whenever the Inner Circle comes out on top. We are fans of the Inner Circle here at Dynamite Download, and yes, the writing is on the wall that group is breaking apart. But I cannot wait to see what MJF and Jericho have in store for us. Can you imagine the build and the match that these guys are going to have with the Young Bucks? I'm geeked about what's in store. And you and I have also talked about, right? The Young Bucks have had a lot of times in their career here in the AEW where their moral compass has been kind of jaded, right? Are they good guys? Are they bad guys? That type of thing. There's going to be no doubt who the good guys are in this one. I think that MJF and Jericho are going to make that very, very clear very early on. We're going to get firmly behind the Young Bucks, which is very important given their bigger story with Kenny and the Good Brothers. So establishing the Young Bucks against a clear, definitive heel team is going to go a long way in the long-term storytelling that AEW is trying to play. And quite frankly, this planted a lot of seeds for where the Inner Circle goes going forward. We saw that in a later on segment. And I think that leads to great television. You put MJF and Jericho, SPD, you've been saying it from the minute we started Dynamite Download. Jericho is pure gold anytime he's on the screen. And quite frankly, even though MJF has been a critic of ours at times with talking smack to us, we believe that this young man, this young star, truly walks the walk. He delivers anytime he's on screen.
He absolutely does, and he's going to continue to deliver on screen. And we'll dive into that promo that was cut later on. But here's our endorsement. If you don't know the endorsement from MJF, calling us the drizzling shits. And so overall, I mean, it seems to me like this is an elite match out of you for sure.
No doubt. You have a tag match and Crayfish is going to be dialed in, but you throw this much talent in the ring together. I feel like, I could spend a half an hour just on this match, honest to God. And the build up and the star power in this one. I talked about this before too, watching Dark the night before. The Acclaimed really, they're starting to win me over, brother.
Okay.
We've been critics of not necessarily critics, but we had a hard time seeing where the Acclaim were going. They burst onto the scene, very quickly, had a match with the Young Bucks without a lot of backstory to it. And now that they've had a little bit of time to breathe, and now that we've had a little bit of time to get to know their characters, get to know where they're coming from, hear a little bit more about their rap gimmick. I'm starting to come around, brother. That their single that they dropped on Dark, they killed it. That they absolutely killed it. I think that the Acclaimed going against MJF and Jericho is going to be a heck of a match, not only from an in-ring perspective, but I think that the entertainment value that's going to have. I hope that we get to see some interaction on Twitter and social media leading into that match. When you put MJF and Max Caster, those types of personalities opposed from each other, I have a feeling that we as fans are going to get a real treat. Really love where that's going. And I think that the AEW tag team division is primed to take off. Obviously, they have great leadership with the Young Bucks as the tag champs. But when you have a legend like Jericho and truly, I believe, the most bankable young star in all of wrestling, and I don't say that lightly, but the most bankable star in all of wrestling with MJF. I think that this match at Revolution could truly be kind of a dark horse for to stealing the show. And we say that all the time on AEW. This match could steal the show, or that match could steal the show. Yep. Really excited about where this is going to go. And I think the ambiguity about what the result could be, about what could happen at the fallout of that match, keeps me as a fan eating those breadcrumbs, brother, following that trail. I want to see where it goes.
Yeah. Speaking of, man, you're on fire with the MJF, man, because he's a fire-filled talent, and the sky is the limit with him. Like we said, you can talk the talk and walk the walk.
No doubt.
And speaking of talking and walk the walk, I mean, we heard from Darby, Sting, and Team Taz once again tonight to really kind of further the feud. And we talked about it a little bit last week, how Darby really hasn't defended much or his title, and then we find out today that he's going to be defending it next week against Joey Janela. But it's just more for the bigger picture. I think that's just a placeholder just to kind of further the feud with Team Taz and Sting leading up to Revolution. Because, yes, we're still over a month away from that. So we're going to have to keep that build going strong. And it's not going to be easy. But when you have people like Sting and Taz on the mic and that are so powerful, and Ricky Starks looks like an absolute star tonight, as he always has been doing. I mean, just with the sunglasses, the shirt, the chain. And then I like how Taz isn't just taking the mic the whole time. He's letting, passing the baton, passing the mic to Ricky Starks. because he deserves it, because that guy is an absolute star for a reason.
Yep.
And, he said that you will get hurt playing in the jungle, So he's always powerful. And with someone like Taz kind of coaching him, even though I don't think he needs coaching, the sky's the limit with him. And we dubbed him as a breakout star for 2021. I think a future TNT champ down the line. And it was a powerful, quick promo, but I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see a little bit of Ricky Starks last night with AEW Dark, and anytime that the waiting room is a segment, your boy SPD is going to be your boy Crayfish is going to be tuned in on this one. I'm going to be keep my eyes on the television when the DMD's on there. Honestly, you could tell even in that segment, a star recognizes a star. Britt Baker and Ricky were feeling each other. They were definitely building each other up, right? And so, to me, yes, we recognize there's a lot of star power in this feud, right? There's a lot of star power between Cage and Starks and Darby and obviously Taz and Sting. They're legends in their own right. They carry that weight and that star power themselves. Mm-hmm. But I think that the internet wrestling community, especially the critics of AEW, tend to latch on to, oh, well, Sting is going to, Sting's a big deal and you guys are pushing these old talents and all this stuff. Man, when you look at the way that AEW is framing this feud, like you just talked about, right? You got Taz, who is a bona fide legend. And honestly, we hear him on commentary. We hear him on podcasts. You hear him across the board, regardless of where he's at. That man is polished, clearly incredibly intelligent, knowledgeable about the business. He could sell a ketchup popsicle to a dude with white gloves. He's that kind of guy.
An Eskimo snow.
That's right. To me, the fact that he's able to, establish credibility for his crew, but to hand the mic over to the budding superstar, to the young talent in Ricky Starks and let that dude shine, it speaks volumes to what AEW continues to do as far as laying the framework for veterans training and elevating their young stars. We just talked about Jericho and MJF winning that tag team battle royal. That's a perfect example where Jericho is obviously the GOAT, right? He's he's on our Mount Rushmore of wrestlers. And you pair him with someone who's under 25, who's got the mic skills, got the charisma, all that, right? This is another example where you got Sting working with Darby, who has that. You talk about it all the time, dude. Like, Darby has that aura, his creativity and his uniqueness in how he presents his character is unlike most things in the mainstream. And I think that latching him on to with a star with Sting adds credibility. It takes away some of the pressure from a Darby on always having to deliver on the mic. It allows Sting to sort of set the tone.
True.
But honestly, walking away from this one, SPD, I don't know about you, but I'm ready already to see Ricky Starks versus Darby one-on-one. I want to see that TNT championship match between those two. I mean, this is an example where AEW just they have so much potential with all these feuds that we could take it in so many different directions. I love what they're doing here with this feud. And I think that if you're watching this show week in, week out, you see that AEW, yes, they're using established star power, but they're doing it to give the rub, and they're doing it to give the attention to the homegrown young talents that they have on the roster. And I think that should not go unnoticed, and that should not be ignored.
Absolutely. And, someone who's not going to go ignored from now on is Jade Cargill, because they didn't say anything, but that promo video was done to a T. It just made her look like an absolute superstar. The slow-mo, I love her new logo.
That logo's sick.
We'll just talk quickly about this, but, I mean, when she does debut coming March 3rd with Shaq in her corner, it's just going to be a wrecking ball, and, the sky's the limit with her.
Yeah, Jade actually encouraged Jade's promo is what encouraged me to show off my guns tonight. Her and I have a similar build. No, but honest to God, Jade is Jade. You can tell this young woman. She's got it.
Yeah, for sure.
She's got that presence about her, man. That like she doesn't have to say anything. You just said it, bro. Like that segment, that little hype video. She didn't say a word, but she had us buzzing. She had us
for sure.
captivated, and I think that speaks volumes on just the presence. There are certain characters, there are certain people in this business that, you know, their presence alone. We even talked about it with Nick Camarado, dude. Like there are certain people when they step on screen, they command your attention, and Jade's one of those people. And the women's division of AEW will be significantly better because of her. If they can continue to bank on that star power that she carries, that natural charisma and that it factor that she has, this division will benefit dramatically because yes, you and I both are. I mean, I can't wait to talk about the next match with you, but you and I both recognize that there are stars in the AEW division, but to a casual viewer, Jade will pop. Jade's presence will pop on the screen. And I do believe if they establish her right, she could be a difference maker in this division.
For sure. And someone that really could get a lot more eyes on a division that has oftentimes struggled, but it definitely did not struggle tonight with the feud of all feuds, a outstanding match with Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker. It finally come to an head, and just, you know, this is the first time meeting, and just the way it kind of panned out is I don't think it's going to be the last, and I hope it's not the last. No. I mean, we'll talk about it after, but we got the contestants, or, you know, the people that are going to be in the number one contender bracket, and both of these people, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, are going to be in it on the American side. So are they going to come back to head and, you know, meet in the quarterfinal or the semifinals or what? No,
brother, I love you recognizing that those breadcrumbs are there, that AEW is always thinking about the long-term story, man. Yeah. As soon as this match ended with a dirty finish, I know I was on Twitter, man, and I know I'm not alone. I was like, we need a rematch. And I know there are so many people who are already clamoring for that. So the way that this
you need to go, give us a rematch.
We want to see Thunder once she gains consciousness again. I want her to cut another little promo saying, "I'm coming for you again, Britt."
She needs to go through Reba and just put her in her place, and then set up another match with Britt. I think, you know, just really make an example out of her for, you know, messing with her.
Yeah, let's get into it, bro. You know, tell me. I have a feeling it's going to be an elite, so I'm not even going to ask that question. Tell me, like, honestly, brother, let's be real. This match, you and I were incredibly geeked over, right? We were hyping this match up the most we could. I don't know if Dynamite Download, if this team has built up. I mean, yes, we've been invested in the Lance Archer, Death Triangle, all that scenario, right? We've loved that. But I don't know if you and I as a team have been as universally behind a feud or a match quite like we have been with Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. We hyped it up, bro. Did it live up to the expectations for you?
I mean, we'll get it out of the way, and of course, it's a lead across the board from both of us.
No,
now the formalities out of the way, we're gonna, you know, dive deep into that because, you know, it was an excellent start because you had a different side of Britt just walking out of the tunnel, more serious. And then you had Thunder just, boom, coming right through. I don't think she got 5 seconds of her song before she hit the ring looking for a fight. And it was an outstanding, you know, the whole match, to me, the star was Thunder. And she looked extremely strong throughout the whole match. She had some vicious chops, vicious kicks, the double kicks. I think Thunder dominated the majority of this match, and she countered a lot of what Britt was throwing at her. You know, I loved what Tony Schiavone said. You know, they did a great job, the commentator, commentator team really hyping this up, kind of like we've been doing, how that they're the two of the top women in the entire world, and this is the first time that we're seeing them together. So it was Thunder Rosa looked like a superstar with her in-ring performance. It was definitely hard-hitting. Her ring gear looked, like Wonder Woman, so it was great kind of to play off that. And just the way that Britt was trying to put her away and her wrestling and her countering pin, trying to really not get that lockjaw in place. And it just looked so strong. And the way that Thunder could pick up Britt, because Britt's bigger than Thunder.
Yep.
So, Thunder is pound for pound probably the strongest woman in AEW. Layla Hirsch is probably pretty tough in terms of strength, not counting Jade, but pound for pound. Yeah, I think we're looking at Thunder Rosa as the strongest woman in AEW. And it didn't, yes, Thunder Rosa took the loss ultimately, but she didn't tap out, kind of like, Eddie Kingston never tapped out before in certain matches. She passed out, and the selling of that was phenomenal. She just looked like she was dead, like a rag doll, and so I don't think Thunder's losing any thunder per se, but I really hope this is not the end of this feud, because it's too good. It is a feud that builds a division that we've said time and time again that if you're going to build a division, build it around these two. And I think that's where they're going, and I hope that's where they continue to go.
Look at that. What a picture, brother. You mentioned that Thunder really sold. And I'll be honest with you, going into this match, I started to kind of started to forget about how much I love Thunder, and I was kind of beating the drum for Britt. I'm really irritated with the IWC and how much they hate on my girl, the DMD. I felt like I was like on a personal battle to defend Britt going into this one. And maybe that tinted my glasses a little bit. And I was looking at this feud or this match through the lens of Britt. But the minute, honestly, dude, like you just said, the moment that Thunder breaks out on the screen, it took me back to when we first saw her debut on AEW, and it made me realize, man, like,
good point.
There is something special about her. There is. I don't know how to describe it, but we see a lot of wrestlers. We see there's so much content on television nowadays.
Yeah.
But there is something special about Thunder, man. She just has this tenacity, this fire. We talked about it in our interview with her. She just has this this drive that it's palpable when she's on the screen. You can feel it when she's not fighting. You can feel it in her every movement. That Thunder she's fighting and scratching and clawing to get to the top, to chase her dreams, to make something of herself. And this was an example. You mentioned it. The match, like, she rushed the ring. She fought this match with the urgency and the anger and the fire that you would expect, given all the trash talk that Britt Baker gave. And we know that Britt Baker is as good as it gets in this business when it comes to trash talk. Honestly, it made me step back again and realize, man, Thunder is such a natural baby face and such an easy person to root for, not just her story outside the ring, but even as a casual fan. If you're tuning in and you see her movements, you see her tenacity, you see how she pushes the pace. I know you're a big fan of wrestlers who push the pace, who make things have that sense of urgency. There are few in the business that do it like Thunder, and I watch everything that I can. I soak up as much wrestling as I possibly can, brother. Thunder definitely is special. So I'm with you on that. I think that I felt like this match was going to be a showcase for both of these women. I don't think that either one of them fell short. I think Thunder clearly was fighting from that underneath position as the babyface, so her offense, all of that plays into you wanting to root for her and that excitement. But I want to say, Britt, continues to do what and I'll toss it back to you before we move on, but I want to make sure that I emphasize there is something as fans, we talked about this with John Silver, and it was something that I took away from my interview with him, is watching when you watch certain wrestlers as fans, we might lose some of the nuances of a performer. We might, we get caught up in the offense, we get caught up in the drama.
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuance to what these people do that make them professionals and make them special. And I want to reemphasize that Britt Baker, when it comes to knowing where the camera is, when it comes to knowing how to add that extra oomph to a move, when it comes to adding that extra nastiness and that extra sort of that arrogance to her offense, there are few in wrestling that know how to do it quite like Britt. And I want to just give her credit for that. That's something that fellow professionals in the business are going to look at her and look at her body of work and recognize what a star she is and why we believe she really is the cornerstone of this division. You could put anybody against her, and I feel like Britt, her polish will allow others to shine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Like you always say, iron sharpens iron, and it's only going to elevate this whole division even more because we saw the announcement of all the contenders for this tournament of the Women's Championship, and the two of the stars that are going to carry the women's division, Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, are in the tournament. And I mean, this match delivered. Of course we were nervous about the placement and the other little nitpicking because we had such high expectations and hopes and excitement for it, but it delivered. It had the appropriate amount of time. It told the good story. And then you had a follow-up that they're going to be in this tournament. I was really deep down, we're thinking like, okay, if Thunder loses, when are we going to see her next?
Yeah.
And like kind of afraid of that.
Yeah.
But thankfully, we get the announcement that Thunder Rosa is going to be in this tournament, that we have Serena Deeb, we have Rio, we got Tay Conti, Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, Anna Jay, Layla Hirsch. So the American side is stacked on that for sure. And just off the cusp, I mean, you have to, in my opinion, have Thunder and Britt meet again. And then whoever wins that match, which we've said about this match tonight, is going to be the new champion of the division.
I love where your head's at. I gotta say, the unveiling of this tournament, you and I had talked about when they mentioned Serena Deeb versus Riho as a first round matchup. We were like, "Whoa, that's a finals matchup." For us to see the way that this tournament.
All right, sorry about the.
You're okay,
Sorry
bro.
about the technical difficulties of the Wi-Fi, but we were saying how the women's tournament, while we wait for Crayfish to come back into that, we will be momentarily shortly. Where are you at? There he is. Crayfish. All right. Sorry, a little technical difficulty, but that.
You're all right, bro. You got me tripping over here. No, I'm good, man. Honestly, like I was saying, you mentioned when this tournament was unveiled that Serena Deeb versus Riho kind of feels like a finals matchup. And so it set the bar where we were kind of wondering, man, this tournament better be stacked if they're going to put Deeb versus Riho in the first round, right? And after Tony ran through, I recorded it on my phone and uploaded it on Twitter because I was so geeked. Dude, like, I have never felt so proud to be an American. After that moment, the U.S. side, I admit, I am ignorant to a lot of what the Japan side brings to this tournament, and I cannot wait to see the talent that they unveil in that. But if you're looking at the U.S. side of this tournament, bro, we got Thunder Rosa, we got Serena Deeb, we got Riho, we got Britt Baker. I mean, Nyla Rose. I mean, you're talking about like some of the absolute baddest women on the planet I love the U.S. side of this tournament. I'm geeking out. I think that we're the favorites, brother. I'm betting all in. If you want to put money on this, SPD, I'm betting on the U.S. side. I can't wait to see it. And honest to God, man, like you see, like you mentioned, getting Thunder Rosa again in this tournament, getting her in there. I was wondering where it was going to go after this match with Britt, like you mentioned. Seeing her officially in the rankings of the women's division kind of got some of us buzzing. Like,
I didn't even catch that. Was that today that Thunder was in the rankings?
She's in the top 5.
Okay.
So you start wondering, like, okay, she's in the top 5. Maybe that means something. And honestly, dude, like you put her in this tournament. I think that, yes, we're going to need to see Britt versus Thunder again. Maybe that's where Thunder gets her revenge. And we predicted Thunder as the breakout star of 2021. We
did, for a reason.
Can you imagine if she took this tournament and can you see a match with her and Shida?
That would be so hard hitting and a great match. Now you got my wheels turning and fantasy booking that for sure.
Exactly, bro. I mean, you talk about striking ability. I mean, we love that fierceness that Thunder Rosa brings, but Shida as a champion doesn't get the credit she deserves for what she does in the ring, man. That woman is a striking bad woman, man. She could bring it. So if you put Thunder and Shida in that match, I can't wait. I'm fantasy booking this whole tournament. My heart wants Britt Baker to win, but there are so many opportunities and so many potential outcomes to this tournament that I really think that the AEW family, that internet wrestling community out there, this is going to grab everybody's attention and suck us in. Honestly, I know AEW and Kenny Omega especially have been trying to push this women's division. Tonight was a great start. I think both those women had high expectations, and we've talked about it. It's one thing to go in and over-deliver when people aren't expecting things out of you, but when there's weeks and weeks and weeks worth of hype and you not only deliver, but you leave people wanting more, you leave people wanting that rematch, you leave people wanting to see you two go at it again, that speaks volumes. And I think Britt and Thunder, a rematch in the tournament has got gold written all over it.
Oh, it has gold written all over it. Absolutely. And we'll move on to the next segment because we can go on and on and on about this. And because it rightfully so, I just wish they would have built this as a co-main event. It really would have made that even more meaningful. Not that it wasn't, but it would have been a nice build. Unfortunately, you had this was the beach break, the Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford wedding. That was kind of the headline. So if this was another normal Dynamite or another normal special show, you could have built it as a co-main event a little bit better. But which we'll move on to the next match, which was a kind of last minute draw, which was Hangman Page and Matt Hardy versus Chaos Project. They were thrown in there, which a little bit is to surprise, but I really feel like the announcers and the hype kind of helped with all that because, we didn't know the rhyme or reasoning behind that. And so for them to really hype it up and kind of have that side promo backstage or the last week promo where they're changing in the locker room really made this a meaningful match, not just one of those thrown in squashes, even though it was pretty much a squash. And then Matt stealing the pin. Big Money Matt stole the pin. So he tagged himself in. And then Hangman kind of just went in with it. So I love Matt Hardy, Big Money Matt's gimmick right now. And Hangman is a star. But this match just wasn't right for the night for me. And so, unfortunately, this one is going to delete out of me. I can't talk too much on this just because I was kind of surprised with it. I'm trying to think of the positives out of it. Nothing against Chaos Project. This could have been anybody. I'm glad it was someone we knew and not just some jobber talents because that would have been even worse in my opinion. But I think we're going to be played down the line for a bigger picture. And we'll look back on this big, okay, that's why they did this.
Honestly, I think that people are going to forget about this match in 2 weeks and they're going to get over their sour grapes and move on. I think that there are a lot of haters. Chaos Project, say what you will about them. I think that there's a place for everybody. I've had to come to peace with that, even with next week's show. There are certain characters on next week's show that are going to be featured that, as a fan, they're not my cup of tea. But that's what makes AEW great, is that they cater to a wide variety of audiences. They cater to a wide variety of tastes. And I think that we need to be cognizant of that. It's not always about what you want or what I want.
Right.
There are people out there who enjoy, seeing Hangman Page go over in a convincing fashion. You know how many people have been clamoring that, Hangman has been underutilized and things like that? For him to get a nice big win, another win like that on his belt doesn't hurt.
It definitely doesn't hurt.
For me, the main reason why it's a delete for me is not the match itself, because I felt like the match actually was better than what most people will give it credit for. I thought the match it went fine. I think that it was smooth. The storytelling was great. Anytime Hangman's on screen, you're going to see that confliction going on in his character, which we find fascinating. I think that, obviously, again, talking to John Silver in our interview with him, we're fascinated to see what plays out on the Hangman storyline. But even more than that, I know, SPD, you're loving Big Money Matt. I think that, honestly, this is one of the most, if not the most, entertaining gimmicks that he's had in his long storied career. I mean, this man has been known for creativity, for being adaptable to the times. This version of Matt Hardy is captivating, and it's entertaining week in, week out, whether he's on BTE, whether he's on AEW Dynamite, or if he's on Impact. This guy is funny. He's incredibly intelligent. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to work the audience. And I think he's working us into a tizzy. I think that he's working a lot of fans into a tizzy with the way things are going. The main reason why it's a delete from me, though, is because I think, as a diehard AEW fan, I think that AEW sometimes needs to back away, maybe learn that sometimes less is more, showing a little restraint. We talk about it, dude. How often do we feel like we're missing something on one of these shows? You're jamming so much into a Dynamite and to a Dark. I mean, Dark has 13 matches on it, right? I mean, they're jamming so much content in that sometimes I feel like less is more. Let the other stuff have time to breathe. Let us as fans have a time to breathe and roll through the show. I think that this show would have benefited if, from a pacing standpoint and from just an overall vibe, maybe if this wasn't on the show. And that's not me trying to hate on the competitors or onto the match itself. Again, I thought that this was better than what most people will probably want to admit online. I just think that, given how stacked this card was, they could have allowed other segments to breathe a little bit more had this been negated. So I hope going forward, especially if AEW gets another show, gets a little bit more time, that pacing and maybe that little editing, that ability or that knowledge to know when to cut something, that they learn that and they recognize that there's always room for them. Dude, they have so many avenues and options to tell this Matt Hardy and Hangman Page story. It didn't necessarily require a match. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, and like you said, I am loving what he is doing as of late. And I was watching his promo on Impact yesterday, and I was laughing out loud, literally, just some of the stuff he's saying. And he's really mentoring Private Party in the right way. And speaking of mentoring, Chris Jericho and MJF, I mean, who's mentoring who at this point? The guy that is Jericho is the GOAT for a reason, but you see MJF looking as smooth and polished as anybody in the business ever. But we're seeing more and more of what we really want to see, which is Sammy Guevara pushing back. He was pushing back against Jericho. He's pushing it back MJF. He's pushing it back against the whole Inner Circle. And this is just the writing on the walls, which we can't wait to see, and how he's calling himself and asking them if they're collateral damage. Are we collateral damage to you guys? We were in the ring together, and then you're saying this, and Jericho's saying we're all the Inner Circle, we're all one team. But Sammy Guevara is not seeing it that way. They're taking the hits, they're taking the losses, while MJF and Chris Jericho are having, celebrating with a little bit of the bubbly. And so, what happened behind closed doors with MJF scheming with the rest of the Inner Circle is going to be another kind of, mind game trick with that. I wonder what he said to the rest of them while Sammy and Chris Jericho were outside of the door when Wardlow shut it on us. So I thought that was a powerful segment and, unexpected as well. So it's coming. The turmoil is coming. It's there. We saw it in the match, and we see it in the backstage promo. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
The Sex Gods were the two out of the last three in that tag team battle royal, and in my mind, I was geeking out. I was like, man, I love Sammy and Jericho together. I love that, and it quickly ended with Jericho unintentionally knocking Sammy out and eliminating Sammy from that match.
Unintentionally,
yes, exactly. I will say, Sammy has he's gotten on our radar more and more over the last few weeks, and a lot of that is because of the way this Inner Circle storyline is playing out. AEW is doing such a great job of slow playing this Sammy Guevara face turn, and that line alone, he didn't have to give a big dramatic speech. SPD, that line alone, where it's awfully convenient how we are always the collateral damage. It really showcased a thoughtfulness, but a seething, bubbling anger inside that is ready to erupt at any. I mean, you could tell Sammy's had it up to here with we're all one family, we're all one team, and then his desires and his goals are always set to the side for the betterment of Chris Jericho. And I think that MJF as Jericho left the room, I think MJF, he's the ultimate chess player. That man is always scheming, always thinking, always manipulating circumstances and situations for his betterment. I think that Santana and Ortiz kind of hanging out in that room, they're primed for MJF to plant some seeds of discontent in that group. I'm intrigued to where this is going to go. The Inner Circle storyline to me is pretty fascinating, and I don't know where they're going to take it. I don't know if it's going to lead to, like you and I have talked about, MJF versus Sammy, if it's going to lead to Jericho versus Sammy, because we're starting to see some of that.
Both. I would say both, maybe.
Maybe both. I mean, think about the rub and the explosion that Sammy's career will have if he can have matches with both of those two guys. I don't know, man. That implosion that's slowly but surely coming is fascinating. But let's put that on the back burner, because you know that MJF and Jericho have a number one contender. They're the number one contenders now. So I'm intrigued to see if they're able to accomplish achieve some gold and maybe accomplish some big things before that group breaks up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think they will. And speaking of achieving gold, I mean, this was the star of the night, the biggest thing that they were advertising for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was the wedding between Penelope and Kip, with Charles Taylor as the butler and Miro as the best man. And I'm still kind of like confused at what was going on, So I was also hoping that you do your eyebrows like the minister there, that maybe we should get those little pointy eyebrows, like, how you was doing. So yes. Yeah. I was hoping that you surprised me with those eyebrows.
I tried to break out the best I could for Beach Break. I unfortunately didn't prep the eyebrows. I didn't know that Father James would be gracing us with his presence. That's
Next
something
time.
that you mentioned. Yeah, I do really love. I tweeted this out. I really love what AEW is doing when it comes to honoring the legends of the business, honoring those people who have paved the way, made an impact on this business. Father James Mitchell is storyline wise somebody who's played a huge role in TNA Impact's success in the past, and certainly interesting seeing a devilish character like that overseeing a wedding. Maybe that's some ominous tones. I hope not for Kip and Penelope's sake. But that said, the wedding, this segment was interesting. I mean, obviously, I got to give it to Kip, man. Penelope, like that smooch from Penelope, you could tell that woman is smitten as a kitten. It was beautiful to see. Really, truly, you could tell these two are in love with each other, and I really hope the best for both of them. I feel like Kip is kind of warmed me up with his charms. He's obviously, when he leans into that character, when he can be a little over the top and kind of more of that Chihuahua type of character compared to Miro's Bulldog. I really like that. Right. But this segment, for me, I thought the star of this whole segment was Miro. I thought that Miro was absolutely hilarious. That dude, when he's on the mic and he's able to just be himself, and this is an example of what makes AEW so special. They empower. We talked again, John Silver, not to hammer that interview so much, but Johnny talked about how this is not necessarily a leadership-based locker room, but that everybody kind of it's for the boys. Everybody's in it together. Yeah. And I think that's because they empower people to be themselves and to make their own situation the best they can. And I think that Miro is a perfect example of that. We talked about this feud started off over a freaking video game. Yeah. And you see how it's developed and it's progressed. We've been able to get some great moments out of a feud that really could be considered by a lot of people as kind of a fluff or a silly or stupid feud. The Charles Taylor, I think that whole thing with Miro, he leaning into him calling him Charles and Charles never having a girlfriend and all those things that Miro did, I would have loved to see it drag out a little bit, but there were some really golden moments already developed out of this feud, and this wedding was a great example of that. A lot of good things happened in this segment.
I'm glad that you're seeing that light on it, because to me it fell very flat. It was very slow paced. It seemed very unorganized and chaotic. Yes, Miro, now that I hear you speaking it and talking about it, his promo work was fantastic. Still, there were some low points, but how he's feeding off the crowd, and they're singing "What Is Love." And,
I love that.
Yeah, and how he's been to these weddings before. He's done this before. No, I'm not going to do that.
He played into the WWE stuff, right?
I think overall, though, this was a miss for me. It was poorly done in the sense of just the pacing of it, and it was placed at a key demo part of the show, the 9:00 hour, and it was just, if I was turning it on, I would have turned it off. Like if I was just a casual fan, because it was not as a Dynamite download fan, but as a casual fan, if I'm seeing this, it didn't have any wow factor to me. And there wasn't enough of a twist. Yes, you had Orange Cassidy coming out, and it's nice to see Charles Taylor fight back and that stuff at the end. But the whole ceremony and this, and I don't know, it was a miss for me, but I'm glad you enjoyed it and you can see the positive out of it with Miro.
Yeah, I'm not used to being the one that is the sunshine and rainbows of our team, but I'm gonna say, like, dude, as a lifelong wrestling fan, I've seen so many wedding segments in wrestling, and I thought this one showed some intelligence. It showed some acknowledgement of past history. Obviously Miro kind of making jokes and swipes about how he had a wedding angle and how his wedding was crashed. We all know what that alluded to. I also thought it was quite funny that, he ripped apart the gift. Yeah. That was kind of like, oh man, somebody's going to jump out of the box of the wedding present. We all thought that was going to happen. It showed some awareness of past segments. And I think that, I liked that. I liked how it kind of showcased that. I do understand the placement of it on the show. But honestly, SPD, going into this week, we stripped down the card to what was advertised from last week. Going into this was one of the main focal points of this show. And I think obviously when wrestling's not involved and we're wrestling fans, so when wrestling's not involved, we might get lost a little bit. But to me, I thought that they did a great job. I thought that like this was handled really smooth. I thought this was handled smoothly, and I thought that like out of it, we know what's going to happen.
SPD's still here.
You there?
Yeah, let's roll. Yeah, sorry, man. I don't know what's going on. It's our first live stream, so sorry. We're rolling through with it. First Dynamite Download live.
All right. So let's move forward because I know that feud is going to be moving forward. We're going to see Orange Cassidy and Charles. I don't know if he'll get to Chuck. I hope he keeps the Charles moniker. I hope
that'll be pretty funny.
I hope Miro never lets him live that down. But I love Miro and Kip going up against OC and Charles Taylor. I think that's the writing is on the wall for that. And it makes me as a fan, SPD, again, like it makes me clamor for Trent long term too, because true. I miss Trent. I think that Trent was the workhorse of the Best Friends. As far as in-ring work goes, there's no doubt Trent is my favorite guy in that crew. So
yeah, he's a workhorse for sure.
I'm excited to see what's going on. So I think this one honestly,
if anything comes out of it, we're getting Orange Cassidy back in the ring. So that's what I'm positive about because he's kind of been, he was the hottest baby face in the company and he kind of went MIA, and there's so many different feuds he could have been involved in, and now he's getting involved with this. So now we'll get him back in the ring and hopefully move on sooner than later for me, because I'm still not buying in to this feud yet, and I'm still not buying into the Acclaimed yet. So I'm slowly coming around to the Acclaimed a little bit, but Miro I love. I don't know. It's going to eventually be good.
Well, I mean, let's talk about we're talking about baby faces. You're mentioning getting to see Orange Cassidy in the ring again, and how he was really trending, especially after that feud with Jericho. He was really trending.
And Cody,
one of the hottest baby faces in the company. I don't know about you, but it's wild for me to see Lance Archer kind of becoming and establishing himself as one of the hottest baby faces in AEW. This guy went from being the murder hawk monster who was literally throwing people into the ceiling to now he's like one of the most over and easy dudes to root for. He's quickly establishing himself as one of the good guys of AEW, and I think it's mostly because he doesn't have an allegiance to anybody. He's like that, like he's almost like that Harvey Dent character where he's just like on it, like truth is the ultimate, like the ultimate fairness to everybody. Just like he doesn't hold judges or good versus bad. He just wants a warpath. He just wants to run through people, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. I love seeing that out of Lance, and I thought this match against Eddie, honestly, SPD, this feud with Eddie has really helped solidify Lance as a babyface. And, Kingston it's a testimony to how good he is as a heel.
Yeah.
That you can help turn a guy like Lance that quickly into one of the more recognizable faces in the company, honestly.
Man, this was a match. I mean, after last time these guys fought, I was just so impressed with Lance Archer, and this is another impressive match out of Lance Archer again. I mean, Tony said it best. He can do anything, man. This guy, Lance Archer, ran to the ring, kind of like Thunder Rosa did, ran to the ring and just started fighting right away. And this turned into chaotic very quickly. And they were throwing people in and out as a typical lumberjack match does, get turned into chaos. Lance was fighting back all the guys, and then he goes over the top rope to kind of clean the house. I mean, that was another wow moment from Lance for me, absolutely. And when he took Bunny over his shoulders, I thought he was definitely going to put her down with the blackout finish, which would have been pretty funny. But Eddie saved the day. But
thankfully, we don't want to see,
for sure. But this was a hard hitting match. It's something that they can't end the feud on, which I'm exactly happy for. Lance got a clean finish. There wasn't too much shenanigans that really cost any major things. Lance looks very strong. Eddie still looks strong. Your coconut bra looks strong as well.
I had to adjust it. Sorry.
I really like the crucifix blackout finish from Lance. I think that's such a cool finish out of him. And I can't say enough good things about him. I want to see more and more of him. We saw some things in a lumberjack that I expected, kind of feuds or future matches that we might see, like Butcher and Blade versus Bear Country. Yes, Bear Country is kind of like this big brawly tag team that we've seen on Dark here and there. And when they went head to head with Butcher and Blade, I think that would be an awesome hard hitting match. Preach. And then you had Jake the Snake deck Angelico, so that was kind of unexpected. We didn't get that good of a camera angle, but you saw Jake and Angelico both on the ground, and Jake was smiling from ear to ear from it. So, this is an elite for me for sure on this. It could not, like I've said before, it could not be an elite with these two guys in the ring.
Yeah, I feel like so many people on the IWC are clamoring, just chomping at the bit for another cage match in AEW. And honestly, man, is there another match or a feud that deserves some sort of like escalation of stakes than this one? I mean, like right now we see Eddie and Lance are tied 1-1. Both matches have involved shenanigans beyond what we could have expected, right? I mean, like this lumberjack match, we talked about it, dude. You just said Bunny got involved. I love what Bunny's doing. I've said it from the get. Butcher and Blade are so much better with Bunny there. She just adds that like kind of maniacal, crazy heel edge to them that really puts them over the top. But honestly, man, like this feud deserves some sort of blood, like first blood, cage match, some sort of old school stakes to it, man. Like the lumberjack was an escalation from a regular one-on-one match, right? We got to see the one-on-one that got shenanigans involved, so we got the lumberjack match involved to try to keep outside interference from being too much of an issue. This match was anything but clean. You saw Bear Country. They were in the middle of the ring. Bunny was on Lance's back. I mean, this match was clearly dirtied and muddied up by outside interference. And I think both men are the type of men who, when they look themselves in the mirror, they want to say, I beat that other dude on my own merit, right? I have a feeling that even though Lance came out on top this time around, we know Lance well enough, at least through social and what we've seen on his presence on screen. This man is not satisfied with just a W. This man is only satiated when he gets that definitive dominant victory. He wants to be a conqueror, right? Lance has that like in his blood where he wants to feel like he's crushed his competition, right? He's laid them to waste. And I think that both of those matches with these two men have made it so, again, Kingston's got that like street fighter, that pride to him that he'll talk a lot of trash, but it has to be backed up by something. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that this is going to go to another level. I think that this is going to continue on. I think that we're going to see this blow up at pay-per-view in March. I think that we're going to see this continue to have that build up. I mean, we saw we saw Lance getting his nose involved in all sorts of business, but I don't think he's done with Kingston. I don't think that he's done by a long shot. I can't wait to see what happens out of it. This was an elite out of me, SPD, because both men, they wrestled this match. They fought this match, as Eddie Kingston would say. It was a fight. They fought this match with a pace and an intentionality that mimics or mirrors that blood feud that they've got going on.
Yeah.
We got to see other characters spill into it.
Yep.
I'm intrigued with where that goes. Like you said, I mean, like Fenix and Pac are clearly moving on to maybe other things. So getting Bear Country involved is not a bad idea with Butcher and the Blade. Seeing where that goes is not a bad idea. I think that could be a total hoss fest. There's a lot to like coming out of this matchup. Obviously, man, anytime that you see outside interference, it kind of makes you want more. And right. I feel like this one left me, as a fan of both these guys, wanting to see them go one more time. One more time.
Yeah, I really hope they go one more time. And I think they will, and it will be must-see TV. It's just this worked very well, the lumberjack match. You know, sometimes it can get a little bit distracting and a little bit too much, but the pacing for this was very well. The finish was good, and the outside interference was great. So overall, I think it went well. And let's move on to your guys, FTR. They cut a mean promo backstage, and it was pretty funny how they're calling Jack, Jungle Boy out and saying if they ran to the principal's office to tell on them and how they're not bad men, but what would bad men do? And it showed that they, essentially kidnapped Marco. And, it wasn't Tully in past has kind of been hit or miss on the mic, and he was a hit tonight, and he cut a mean promo, and he looked scary as well. So, I mean, this was a home run from Tully and FTR. I mean, they've been consistently cutting those backstage promos in the bar, in the booth, now in the trailer. Like, they're true professionals. And I mean, I don't need to tell you that, but
oh man, I'm more than happy to sit here and you just wax poetic about my favorite tag team in the whole world. Go ahead, just keep lauding praise at how great they are. It makes me so happy to hear you starting to come around to FTR, man. You have no idea. I am such a mark for these guys. It's hard for me to sort of distinguish my fandom for them versus, like, I try to be objective on this show the best I can. Yeah. We recognize we're fans first, so that's going to bleed into what we do, and that's okay. It will be a rare moment, and it's been one time, but it'll be a very rare moment when you see an elite or a delete out of Crayfish from an FTR segment. I really believe that these guys are special. Their knowledge and their history of the business, they are students of the game. And that's what I love about them. You could tell in this segment they've clearly studied what it takes to be a heel, and they've pushed all in on really putting over, I think, Jurassic Express. This feud, could you pick another team on this roster to help make Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, and Jungle Boy look more sympathetic as baby faces? I mean, we talk about it every time they do. They have a match. They know how to manipulate the rules, manipulate the ref, manipulate the fans. They're always doing shortcuts and tandem offense and cheating to get by. When they're on mic, dude, they're vicious. I mean, like, truly, they don't pull punches. When they're cutting these promos, they know what they're doing, man, and they're clearly establishing themselves as the top heel team in AEW. As if anyone needed a reminder, they're more than happy. They're more than happy to remind you, fans at home, that they've been around the block. They've done it all. Honestly, when it comes to North American tag team wrestling, there's not a team on this planet that has done what FTR has done. They've truly NXT, Raw, SmackDown, AEW. They have established dominance across the board. They can work with any sort of talent, big, small, experienced, inexperienced. These guys set the bar for tag team wrestling for me. This segment, I'm glad to hear you give Tully some props because we've mentioned FTR maybe didn't need them at times. This was a great example of what Tully brought to the table to this crew, a legitimacy, that history of that, like that kind of, like you said, man, like he was in Marco's face in that promo. I'm a big fan of where this is going. We got to see Dax versus Jungle Boy in a one-on-one match. I hope that this feud gets us another one-on-one or a couple matches like that. I'd love to see Cash get in there. This is really, truly, we talk a lot about iron sharpening iron with these feuds. FTR, they are established. They're well known for what they're capable of. You throw Jurassic Express against these guys, and immediately you can see babyface superstars out of Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy.
I love Jurassic. I've been a Jurassic Express fan from day one, and just the combination. And now I'm even a bigger fan with the new entrance. So it is now probably one of the hottest babyface tag teams with that new entrance. So to put them against FTR is a perfect combo. Early on we did talk about like, where's this going? They just kind of ran into each other like in the crowd, and now we see it, and it's going to be a great tag match when you have the true Jurassic Express versus FTR. That could be pay-per-view quality match for sure. I'm not going to lie, FTR, the Revival in WWE, they were not special to me. They didn't impress me in WWE. Granted, that's a whole nother topic of how getting booked. But
and you didn't.
They are really impressing me in AEW, and they're coming around to them.
You didn't get a chance to really see them come up through the ranks of NXT. Like I watched that. I saw where they kind of paved their way. And this is why I don't participate in this online war. I don't get into that. I don't like that because I want both companies to be successful. I want to see people chasing their dreams and getting over. I mean, so I see a place for both. And I watch Dynamite live and I'll watch NXT tomorrow. I have no problem with that. But this is I'm glad to hear you say it. I can tell you as an FTR fan, this is the most personality that they've been able to show in their careers. They've always been guys that you can put in the ring, and they've always prided themselves on this. Being the workhorses, being the sort of the quiet foundation for other bigger personalities, right? FTR is kind of no flips, just fists, right?
Yeah.
Talk heavy, hit hard. They don't mince words, but up to this point in their career, it's been more about what these guys can do in the ring, their tandem offense, their chemistry. You see it, SPD, when they're in the ring together, their smarts, the way they manipulate things, they're brilliant when it comes to in-ring work. But AEW has allowed these guys to have a showcase for their personalities like they've never had before. And I think that's part of the reason why you're coming around, because you are somebody I know this as a friend of yours, like you're somebody who gravitates to those big personalities. You like the Orange Cassidy's.
Yeah.
You love those guys who kind of pop on.
The Road Dogg and Billy Gunn were the New Age Outlaws were some of my favorite tag teams.
Right. And this is an example where you're starting to see these guys, and I love that about AEW. They're giving an opportunity to grow, to be themselves, to blossom. Yeah. I love seeing that. And there's nobody, in my opinion, we're talking about NXT transitioning to AEW and all these things. Dude, Pac is my favorite wrestler in the world. All right, like I'll say that week after week after week until other people start to recognize how awesome this dude is.
No, I mean this is you'll beat the drum.
Like the way this dude's career has played out and where he's at in AEW, I'm so happy. I don't know if Tony Khan is he recognizes, maybe he remembers me from All Out when in 2019 when I was screaming at the top of my lungs throughout the whole show when Pac was going against Hangman. Like, I love Pac. I think that he's every bit as good as anyone in the whole world. And to see him get into this match, I'll be honest with you, I was expecting him to steal the show for me. I came away most impressed by your guy Fenix. I came away so impressed by Fenix in this match.
I completely agree, man. He was, we'll reveal our top performers shortly, but Fenix is, I was texting you, I'm like, he's the best. He is the best in AEW right now, in my opinion. Just the ring work, his entrance music, his Justin Roberts, so the little bit, now I could say, since it was a six-man tag, obviously he's not in the whole ring the whole time. He's put on back-to-back amazing matches on Dark, this past week and the week before. And this guy is just so incredible. But before the match, we dived into it deeper. I was a little surprised that the champ, Kenny Omega, came out first, and we had some new music. I was hoping for a typical Justin Roberts, long, drawn-out entrance from Kenny, the cocky entrance. But we had some new music with Kenny and the Good Brothers, which was a nice surprise. And then you had the Moxley and the Death Triangle part.
The entrance for Moxley, Phoenix,
yeah.
Yeah, the entrance from Moxley, Phoenix, and Pac was more, I guess more grand and kind of built up than Kenny and Good Brothers, right?
Yeah, and you did have that little bit of the Ray and then the John Moxley, which we all love from Justin Roberts. It kind of gives you chills going down the spine. Like, Justin Roberts is so good. We got to give him props on the mic, man. He really can hype an intro, make someone feel really special. But his John Moxley is amazing.
His John Moxley's amazing. And I mean, dude, the rolling of those R's, it felt like he went on for days, man. That Ray Phoenix dude that intro was on point. I want to see more Phoenix on Dynamite simply for that introduction.
Well, that's like how I feel about a lot of it. I mean, we talked about on our Twitter of, best entrances. And so an entrance is a spectacle that is fun to watch, both on TV and live. You really, I grew up like mimicking entrances and stuff, playing the theme songs and then coming out down the stairs as Stone Cold and things like that.
Yup, I was doing the head now. I was doing the Stone Cold, yup.
Anyways, as we digress into the match, it was extremely fast paced, extremely hard hitting. I love Pac's rolling German suplexes against the ropes. I mean, you've said it before. He can sell like no other in the biz, man. That guy can be a dead fish in the snap of the fingers, and then he can do a 450 splash on the other hand. So, the paradigm shift by Kenny and then the top rope move by Pac was amazing. The double moonsault by Phoenix, that camera angle, props to the team, because they had this overhead camera angle where they did the double moonsault. And wow, man, just standing on the top rope to be able to do that, just to have the confidence and the fearless, it's really incredible stuff. And I love the match. It delivered. I'm still not sold on the Good Brothers being here because there's so much better AEW talent in my opinion, but this was a great match and the ending was absolutely mind-blowing. And I'll let you talk about it and then we'll get Bonds' biggest moment and then wrap that up.
I'm going to wax poetic a little bit about this one just because for me, dude, like I was not expecting. I mean, I think the obvious story, right, was, and Don Callis talked about on the mic, how Moxley is kind of he's used to being the lone wolf in AEW, right? He's kind of had his back against the wall and hasn't really had a lot of allies. and so that did play into the way this match fought. And I think that, I got to give, I want to give credit to, you mentioned the camera crew and the production crew, not giving us a headache or nauseating us like WWE can sometimes, where they're just switching back and forth to a million different camera angles. Yeah. They caught everything. You didn't miss anything crazy on this one. But the commentary team continues at AEW to be on point. They not only narrate what's going on screen, but they truly do a nice job of establishing, building stories, leaning into the character work. Don Callis was a great addition to the commentary team tonight. I really liked that extra, kind of that extra bias that he threw into this matchup and the story that he played into this match. He pointed out multiple times about, Fenix, Pac, and Moxley not necessarily being on the same page or being used to teaming with each other.
True.
And we did see that come into play with Moxley's offense in particular. That said, there were moments in this one where that team, they really gelled and they popped. I mean, there was some tandem offense where I was truly kind of blown away. There was a close finish against Omega that in particular where, it was just like all three of those guys were just going ham on Omega. Got a close call on that. And then I also really loved how Pac broke up that pin attempt by using that top rope. The 450, that was insane. And Colton Gunn, Colton Gunn was in the front row popping like a madman for that one. I was like, thank you. You're me right now, but you're there. Thank you for popping so hard for that move. That was incredible. I really, really enjoyed that. And honestly, dude, I'll tell you this. I could watch Fenix and Omega fight for an hour. I could just sit there and watch those two go at each other. Again, I'm excited to see Pac and Fenix presented as equals to a Moxley and Omega. I really like to see that. I'd like to see AEW recognizing the star power those guys have.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm not necessarily the biggest Good Brothers fan myself, and I don't want to be quick to rush to judgment, right? I know that I might have a little bias against them based off of what I've seen in the past with their characters in other promotions in North America, but I don't want to be. I've already learned my lesson. I'm quickly with the Acclaimed as an example. You're not on board with them yet. You and I both were kind of about them.
Right.
They first burst on the scene, but I'm on board with the Acclaimed. I see what people see in them. I think that they got charisma, and they have a natural ability to kind of talk smack, which I like. So I don't want to rush to judgment to the Good Brothers. I want to see where this goes. I want to pump the brakes a little bit before I condemn them being such a big part of AEW. I will say BTE doesn't feel the same with them on it.
Yeah.
They've taken some of that, like, I don't know.
It's not the humor that fits with the BT and AEW, in my opinion. So, we talked about it. We'll try to see the silver lining in it, but the Good Brothers on BTE are not the vibe that we are used to. And give us more John Silver, give us more Dark Order shenanigans, get the core guys, it's borderline offensive, nauseating. And, there is some boundary or, they push the envelope on BTE, but this is just to another level. It's not really exciting.
Yeah. But I will agree with you on that. I will say, looking for the silver lining as we try to do, their in-ring work is as good as I've seen them. They clearly are. They're in great shape. You can tell Gallows is in phenomenal shape right now. Yeah. Carl Anderson's always kind of been the workhorse of that crew. That dude doesn't get the credit that he deserves because he's the small guy. So he oftentimes has to be the one who fights from underneath. But I do see. I got to give these guys credit. I see that their in-ring work is as good as I've seen And when you're paired up with Kenny Omega, you better be on your A game, right? You better be able to carry your weight, because that dude is the best in the world. I mean, I have to give him his props, man. I don't know about you, but every time we see Kenny, I'm more and more impressed by his character work, by his ability in the ring. It just he delivers, man. He delivers. High expectations are always on a Kenny Omega match, and he always delivers. So I got to give him props on that. Overall, this match, sometimes in 6-mans or 8-mans or whatever, they can get chaotic to a point that it can be a detriment.
Right.
I thought this match was fluid. It was tight. It told a cohesive story. And I really do believe that, the continuation of Kenny and the Good Brothers is going to lead to a lot of entertaining television. We saw that in the end of this show. Kenny and the Good Brothers,
gosh.
Kind of their New Japan ties. I wonder where if they're gonna be allies of Kenta, or if it's gonna be Kenta versus Moxley based off of sort of their independent history. Knowing AEW, they're gonna interweave these characters in a beautiful pattern, a beautiful little mesh. We've seen it time and time again. They know how to tie all these different characters into one beautiful story. So I'm really geeked to see where this goes.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but, Fat Mark Weekly, watching our show, gave us some breaking news. We were talking about the card, which we'll dive into. But if you can see right here, Kenta and Kenny are facing Archer and Mox next week in a lights out match. So that just elevated next week's card about tenfolds. So we were talking about the card. I guess we'll just talk about it, and then we'll end with Bonds' biggest moment. But the card next week did not seem as a typical AEW type of card. And so, we're going back and forth, and obviously in a typical AEW fashion, they will always add more things. But there's an exclusive video that we got to watch as soon as we're done with our show, to where Kenny is back, behind the stadium, and then get an interview, and then they challenge to a lights out match. So that is going to be outstanding for sure, to say the least. And the other matches that were announced for next week, we had, of course, Darby Allin and Joey Janela for a TNT title match. And so this is Darby's second title defense. So that'll be nice to see that. But yeah, next week is shaping up to be an interesting one. Chris Jericho and MJF, like we talked about it, versus the Acclaimed next week as well. And I think we're going to see, obviously, the Inner Circle. Maybe there'll be some more turmoil with Sammy Guevara in there. But if MJF and the Acclaimed to do a promo battle, actually all four of these guys do a promo battle to start the match, that would be some outstanding stuff for sure.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I'm glad that you took the first match from me. I'll talk about this one for a second. Chris Jericho and MJF versus the Acclaimed. We're used to seeing the Acclaimed kind of cut those cool promos leading into the ring, kind of walking down the ramp. I can only imagine how MJF will respond, and Jericho, the GOAT, will respond to Max Caster talking smack. So I hope that they do lean into that, because the personalities of all four men are really what make them special. I think that one could be really, really cool. Cody Rhodes and Lee Johnson versus Pretty Peter Avalon and Cesar Bononi. That's an interesting one. I've seen Cesar in the ring before outside of AEW. I've seen him in the ring. The dude can go. For SPD, I know you haven't really seen him. He gets a lot of comparisons to Cesaro. I think you'll see that.
Oh, okay.
I think you'll see that in the ring. Certainly, he's going to be the muscle of that group, of that pairing between him and Pretty Peter. I think he's gonna kind of carry some of that load against Cody. And I think that one could be interesting. Obviously, star power wise, it's not the same as a Mox and Pac and Fenix versus Kenny. It's not the same. But I think that one could be interesting. And now that they've mentioned, they've already added Archer and
Archer and Mox versus Kenny and Kenta. And so
match.
I'm happy that we're because the announced matches didn't seem strong enough for a main event, and so this being the main event will be, or has to be, in my opinion, will be amazing. We're getting, we're seeing Kenta for the first time on AEW television, and we're seeing 3 other top guys in the company go into an absolute bloodbath, which all 4 will be able to take some crazy punishment. So it's going to be some good stuff.
Well, yeah, man, and I know that like there's that weekly war between NXT and Dynamite, and there are a lot of people who were so excited about Kenta going to NXT, and unfortunately, injuries kind of derailed a lot of his momentum when he was there, and he served that in that chapter of his career there. Going back to New Japan, reestablishing himself as a bona fide star on a global scale was big for him. And I think that we as fans are going to be pretty pumped to see what he's gained from that experience in New Japan. Brian Rosano, one of our biggest fans on this show, he loves tagging me in different strong style clips on social. And SPD, Japan is known for this strong style, this hard-hitting affair. Kenta's kicks, I have a feeling you're going to be impressed.
All right, well, this is Bonds' biggest moment. It was the Kenta, so let's give it a listen and see if this will work for Bonds' biggest moment of the night.
Hey, everybody. Bonds here with my biggest moment of the week, and oh my goodness, I cannot believe Kenta made his debut tonight at the end of the show, and he's not with AEW, he's with New Japan, but this just opens up so many options for AEW. If they're getting people from Impact, if they're getting people from New Japan, and these are their top-tier stars, who else can be on AEW any week? And I can't believe that we got to see Kenta on TNT tonight. That was so awesome, especially because we saw some hints of this with Jon Moxley attacking him at New Japan. So we knew that there was something brewing between these two guys, but I had no idea it was going to make its way onto AEW television. And guys, Beach Break was awesome. I need to hear your thoughts on this moment, though, because it was an absolute shocker.
Was it ever? I mean, yes, we touched on it, and it was a shocker. This masked man come out. I mean, I thought we were going to end the show with the Murder Hawk cleaning house, which I was excited about, and then we get the surprise by Kenta. And I'll be the first to admit I don't know the capability of Kenta, and I'm going to need to watch a lot of his stuff. If anyone has some recommendations they want to send our way, please do. Leading up to this match next week, and yeah.
I will say, like, I watched all his stuff. I mean, I like NXT. I do watch NXT. So I watched his stuff there. He's a different cat in New Japan. He's a different cat now than he was then. And this is one of those moments that is buzzworthy because you see, just like, I mean, we've seen it countless times, people who break away from that big corporation grip on their character, on what their in-ring abilities are, and they blow up. I mean, Jon Moxley is a great example of that. Kenta, I think Kenta is going to be he's a game changer. I mean, as Bonds pointed out, it's not just Kenta. It's what does this mean on a global scale for professional wrestling? That's something that I am particularly intrigued about because, up to this point, Tony Khan has really approached, and I talked to my wife about this because, I work for Flex. I work for Flex and Gate. It's under the same umbrella of the Khans and all that. I've tried talking to my wife about like how AEW runs this in a business mentality where it's like, we're not going to grow and be better if the little guys get choked out and they suffer.
Yeah.
Like we all got to climb together, right? And you and I talk about that on Dynamite Download.
Yep.
We want to see other people be successful, and we want that. And I think that Tony approaches wrestling beyond AEW, the same way. NWA, Mission Pro Wrestling, Impact, New Japan. This man looks at wrestling with a business mentality and says, why just focus in on my company? Why not tap into this global marketplace and try to bring the best of everything we can to the fans? And ultimately, if we do that, we're all going to get better. The fans are going to be happier. NWA, Mission Pro, Impact, and we've seen Impact's ratings go up, but New Japan's going to get more eyes on it. Like SPD, I know you're going to go watch some New Japan stuff after this and try to get familiar with Kenta and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he approaches it that way, and I think we as fans are going to benefit from it. I'm really excited to see where AEW is trying. You can tell AEW is trying to pave a new path, almost a throwback path but like recognizing that we're all of these companies are important and we all need to help each other to grow.
Yep.
WWE is the global monolith. And if any of these guys have a chance to stick around, they got to almost work together to build each other up. And I love what they're doing. I think the product is benefiting it from it tremendously. We see, Thunder Rosa. I mean, dude, there's so much stuff that we've benefited from as fans. I can't wait to see what happens. Next week's show, this is a game changer for next week's show. You and I were talking about it. I was a little bummed about where it was going to be next week based off of what was announced.
Yeah.
This changes everything.
It does.
This changes absolutely everything. Can't wait for it. Let's get into our top performers for the night, and then we'll wrap up the show. SPD, I'll let you lead us off because I love hearing you geek out about how much you love Lance Archer.
Well, this is back-to-back weeks, and I don't think that's happened with me. Unfortunately, because a lot of times the way the booking goes with AEW is you see it, you see a talent on 1 week and then they take a week off, and because it's such a deep roster. But Lance Archer, this is back-to-back top performers from SPD, and we could see a three-peat if since he's going to be featured again next week. So definitely his performance. And what really sealed the deal with him was him coming out at the main event to kind of clear house and to put the Good Brothers in their place. But overall, I just love to see a big man work that strong and that agile and that just his everybody dies mentality and just kind of just like soaking it all in. So Lance Archer is definitely my top performer. I was going back and forth. It was between him, Thunder Rosa, and Ray Phoenix. And so those were the three, and what really solidified it was that ending for me. Thunder, like I talked about earlier, she looked absolutely strong the whole match. She was very impressive. This was probably, Bond said it, the best women's match in AEW to date, and so that was worthy of a top performer.
Yeah, I mean, not only did the Murder Hawk beat Kingston, but that ending, I could see why that was the cherry on top of the sundae for a Lance Archer mark like you. You had to be so geeked out to see him get involved because, to this point, so much of his storyline was centered around, Eddie Kingston, but it was also his relationship with Pac and Fenix. And I didn't know if they were going to write that off and move him in a different direction and just have him focus only on Kingston. Right. It was nice to see him get involved in this again and stick up for the good guys, stick up for Team AEW. And I think that, we've fantasy booked this to death, but he is clearly emerging as a leader for Team AEW in this war of AEW versus the world. I think that I understand why you picked the Murder Hawk tonight. For me, I'm picking the DMD. I felt like that match. I don't know, man. I haven't been that excited about a match on AEW for a while. Maybe, when you consider the feud, you consider the buildup, the importance of it to the women's division. The women's division, you and I have talked about it at length. It really needed a definitive matchup. It really needed some stars to emerge from this group. Mm-hmm. And I feel like again, I'll reiterate it. Anytime a match has high expectations or high standards placed on it, and it delivers, I as a fan come away even more impressed because it shows that preparation, it shows that that deliberate approach to it, to know that that eyes are on the product. I think that I'll be honest with you, Britt versus Thunder was the match that I wanted to see the most, because I was expecting Thunder to do exactly what she did, and that is go full throttle, push the pace, test Britt in the ring. And I thought Britt responded. I thought Britt held her own and then some. I felt like Britt obviously Britt coming out on top speaks volumes for where her character is going. Yep. And I think that's why I picked her as the top performer, is because not only did she win, but I think that this was sort of a recognition by AEW that Britt Baker is the star that we see her as, and this is going to be a turning point for her character to be more taken more seriously in the ring, to be somebody who's not just talk. I think it's going to go a long way, and I think it's going to establish her even further in the women's tournament. So I'm geeked about where they're going with the DMD. I think that she's got a lot of star power. I thought that she came out on top. She looked like $1 million tonight. So
absolutely. And thank you everyone for tuning in to our first live episode of Dynamite Download. We'll hopefully be doing more of these. And we dressed the part and everything. So you guys, please follow us on YouTube if you're not already. Check out our John Silver interview that is live now on our YouTube channel. And there you got our Twitter handles and our Instagram. And we will put this also on Spotify if you want to listen to it back. But the John Silver interview, we got some other ones coming up in the piping line, so stay tuned for that. We'll announce those as soon as we finalize those. And we will see everyone Friday night for Friday night flights and fights. It's a mouthful, a lot of F's. So we're going to have another great time. We had a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. So until next time, enjoy that coconut bra, crayfish, and SPD. This is Dynamite Download, everyone.